You're asleep, completely out, drooling on your pillow, probably snoring. Zero awareness of the world around you. Now imagine you're not in your bedroom. You're in a tent. A thin piece of nylon, embarrassingly thin, separating you from a forest full of animals that could absolutely end you. Lions, bears, wolves, leopards. Creatures that can hear your heartbeat from across a clearing, smell you from a mile away, and see perfectly in the dark, while you're just lying there, with your eyes closed. And yet, you wake up in the morning every single time. Why? Seriously, think about this for a second. A sleeping human is just meat. Slow meat. Quiet meat. Meat that can't fight back, can't run, can barely even register that something's happening until it's already happening. You'd think predators would be circling campsites every night, like some kind of all-you-can-eat buffet. But they're not. They almost never are. The reason they're not, it's not one thing. It's never just one thing. There are several layered explanations, each one more fascinating than the last. Start with the thing that sounds like an ego trip, but is actually just biology. You are terrifying. Not you specifically, but humans as a species. To predators, we are genuinely, deeply, evolutionarily frightening. Not in a way that's obvious from looking at us. We don't have claws. We're not fast. We're not particularly strong for our size. We can't even see well in the dark. On paper, we're kind of a disaster as an animal. A study published in 2019 by researchers at UC Santa Cruz found something remarkable. They played audio recordings of human voices near mountain lions in California. Normal human voices, people just talking, and the pumas fled. The same research showed that pumas abandoned food they'd already killed, food they were in the process of eating, when they heard human voices nearby. They left their meal on the ground and moved away. Lions in Africa's Kruger National Park reduce their movement in areas with higher human activity. Tigers in India give wide berths to villages. Jaguars in the Amazon have adjusted their movement patterns to avoid locations where humans are regularly present. These aren't animals that are physically incapable of attacking. They're animals that have decided, at a species level, over thousands of generations, that being near us isn't worth it. We have been hunting and killing large predators for so long and so effectively that we have literally shaped their genetics. Humans have been active predators for around 2 million years. We hunted mammoths out of existence. We wiped megafauna off entire continents. Giant sloths, woolly rhinos, saber-toothed cats, cave bears. In North America, we hunted wolves to near extinction across the entire continental landmass. We eliminated mountain lions from the entire eastern half of the continent. The predators that kept their distance, that treated humans as something to avoid rather than something to engage with, they survived. They reproduced. They passed that inherited caution to their offspring. Over thousands of years and thousands of generations, that caution became biological. It became instinct. It became the baseline behavior of every large predator that shares space with humans today. When a leopard picks up your scent in the night, somewhere deep in its nervous system, a very old alarm goes off. Not a thought exactly, an ancient, wired-in, inherited signal that says, "Be careful around that thing." That alarm has been passed down from every ancestor of that leopard that survived a close encounter with humans. It's a biological memory, and it runs deep. Now, let's talk about your smell. You've probably never really thought about how you smell, because you're surrounded by other humans all the time, and you've normalized it completely. Bears have a sense of smell estimated to be about 7 times stronger than a bloodhound. Wolves can detect scents from nearly 2 miles away. Big cats have a specialized organ that lets them taste the air. When these animals encounter a sleeping human, they receive a flood of olfactory data. You smell like synthetic fabrics, processed food, soap, shampoo, sunscreen, insect repellent, a cocktail of artificial compounds with no analog in the natural world. Beneath all of that, you smell like a primate. Which is something, but it's not the thing, not the deer, or the wildebeest, or the rabbit, that these predators have evolved over millions of years to recognize and hunt. A predator's hunting instinct is not generic. It's a finely tuned system, calibrated to specific prey. A wolf's predatory response is triggered by the movement patterns of ungulates. You're not in the system. You're an anomaly. Anomalies trigger caution rather than aggression in most predators. There's also the campfire effect. One of the most underrated things humans have ever figured out. Fire is one of the only stimuli that produces a near-universal fear response across virtually all land animals. It's not a learned behavior. It's not something animals figure out from experience. It's innate. It's ancient. Laboratory-raised animals who have never been near fire in their lives will show avoidance behavior at the smell of smoke. Humans discovered fire somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, and for most of that time, sleeping next to a fire has been standard operating procedure. A campfire doesn't just keep you warm, it broadcasts a signal into the surrounding dark that says, something dangerous is here. Something that controls fire, something that should be avoided. You figured that out before you figured out farming, before you figured out pottery, or writing, or architecture. Fire first. Smart move, honestly. Now, let's tackle the biggest myth about predators, because movies have spent decades getting this completely wrong. Predators are not reckless. A lion doesn't have health insurance. A wolf doesn't have sick days. One serious injury, a broken leg, a deep bite wound, a damaged eye, can mean a slow death by starvation. Every single decision a predator makes about whether to engage with something is a survival calculation. Is the caloric value worth the risk of injury? Is this prey familiar enough? Is the chance of success high enough? First, unfamiliarity. A predator is most confident attacking prey it knows. It does not know how a human will respond. Humans are wildly unpredictable. We might wake up screaming. We might have tools nearby. We might have other humans nearby who will respond. We might thrash in completely unexpected ways. For a predator trying to minimize risk, that level of uncertainty is a massive red flag. Second, the size question. Humans, when they stand up, are actually pretty big. We're tall, upright, and our bipedal posture makes us appear larger and more imposing than most prey animals of equivalent weight. Third, and maybe most importantly, why bother? There are almost always easier options. Going after something strange, unknown, and potentially dangerous when there's a perfectly available impala nearby makes no sense. Here's something that almost never comes up in these conversations. Your sleep is not as deep as you think. You go down into deep, slow-wave sleep. Then you come back up into lighter stages, including REM sleep, where your brain is actually quite active. And during those lighter stages, your brain remains surprisingly responsive to the environment. Scientists call this the sentinel function of sleep. Even while resting, animals, including humans, maintain a partial watch on the environment. Your brain during light sleep stages is still filtering sensory input and flagging things that seem unusual or threatening. A twig snapping loudly nearby, the sound of a large animal moving through brush, a change in the air pressure and smell that comes with something large approaching. These things can pull you toward waking faster than you might expect. The humans in our evolutionary history who slept too deeply, who were completely unresponsive to nighttime threats, were more likely to not wake up at all. The lighter sleepers survived and reproduced. Over hundreds of thousands of years, human sleep got tuned to stay light enough to respond to threats. We sleep lighter and in shorter cycles than most large mammals. So while you feel completely helpless when you're unconscious, you're actually running a fairly sophisticated early warning system. Not perfect, not foolproof, but present. And then there's the group factor. Humans are almost never actually alone when they camp. We travel in groups, sleep in groups, and those groups respond collectively. Predators don't just attack prey, they hunt for separation. They look for the isolated individual, the one that's fallen behind, the one that's been cut off from the group. A camp full of sleeping humans is a group. And not just any group. A group that, when one member wakes up and makes noise, will likely wake up the others. That collective response is deeply unappealing to a predator. Now, let's be honest about something. None of this means you're untouchable. The attacks that do happen follow a consistent pattern. They almost always involve circumstances that have broken the normal rules. A predator that's injured and can't hunt its normal prey. A predator that's starving because its habitat has been destroyed. A predator that's lost its inherited wariness through contact with humans. The lions of Tsavo in Kenya are the most famous example. In 1898, 2 male lions attacked and killed somewhere between 35 and 135 railway workers over about 9 months. The Champawat tiger,
responsible for an estimated 436 deaths in India and Nepal in the early 1900s, was later found to have been shot in the mouth at some earlier point, shattering 2 of its canine teeth. The pattern repeats across almost every documented case of large predator attacks on humans. Something broke. The normal calculation changed. The inherited caution got overridden by desperation, which means the rule holds almost universally in conditions where the ecosystem is intact, the predator is healthy, and the humans haven't scrambled the normal signals, like leaving food out, approaching wildlife, or eliminating the campfire. We have been so effective at making the natural world afraid of us that it's now causing problems we didn't anticipate. When pumas avoid areas where humans are active, the deer in those areas face reduced predation pressure. Deer populations in those zones increase. That increased deer population overgrazes vegetation. Meanwhile, medium-sized predators, coyotes, bobcats, foxes, also reduce their presence near humans, which means the rodent populations they normally control start expanding. Everything shifts, and it shifts because of us, because of our presence, because the fear we've generated over millennia radiates outward through the ecosystem like a signal. We change the behavior of every predator layer on the continent, without ever directly interacting with most of those animals, just by being there, just by being the thing that evolution told them to be afraid of. One species, one inherited fear, ripples across the entire living world. The most dangerous animal on the planet is the one that figured out fire before it figured out everything else. The one that's been shaping ecosystems, not just through what it eats, but through what it makes other things afraid to eat. The one that sleeps light, travels in groups, and carries 10,000 generations of successful survival in its DNA. That's you. That's what you are. So yeah, next time you're lying in a tent in the middle of nowhere, listening to the sounds of the dark beyond the nylon wall, and you feel that little pulse of ancient anxiety, that's fine. That feeling kept your ancestors alive. But the thing outside the tent, it's not coming in. It knows better.